Is this good to eat? Watch. Hi, I'm Sure Dalu.
Dalu, today we're talking about a fitness staple, chicken breast. Honestly, I don't like it. Too dry. Tastes like tree bark. People online say it won't be dry if you cook it right. I don't buy it.
Alright, calm down. So you're asking for a debate. I doubt they'd actually come debate you, though.
Why? They gave up?
No, they're still chewing, because it's that dry. Okay, enough joking around now. Seriously, there's actually a reason why chicken breast turns out so dry. And there are scientific ways to make it really tender as scallops. Let's start from the basics first. Why do gym goers eat chicken breast? Simple. When you're working out regularly, your body craves endless amounts of protein. Some people aim for 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, or even more. That means if you're a 90-kilo big guy, you might need 180 grams of protein every day. Sure, protein powder is an option, but chugging it every day gets boring fast. That's why we still need high-quality animal protein. According to the USDA, 100 grams of chicken breast has 27 grams of protein. Is that a lot? Actually, soybeans have more. Black beans, and even some mushrooms, have more protein than chicken breast. So why is chicken breast still the go-to for fitness enthusiasts? It comes down to a concept called high-quality protein. That means the protein must contain all 9 essential amino acids. Those 9 essential amino acids are ones our bodies can't make. That's why you need to get them from food every day. Now, here's the thing about muscle growth. What happens if you're missing any of those 9? And that's exactly where the famous bucket theory really starts to come into play. Think of a bucket. When you fill it with water, it can never hold more water than its shortest plank allows. This theory states that, in the end, everything is ultimately limited by its weakest link. And then there's also some chicken breast as well. Not only contains all 9 essential amino acids, but it also has another advantage. Its protein-to-fat ratio is nearly perfect. It's very low in fat. Here's the fun part. Since fitness diets, that means we really need to keep our fat intake pretty low. You can save up that small fat allowance for something indulgent, like fries fried in goose fat, or even dip those goose fat fries in butter mayo. Okay, that combo sounds kind of weird.
Ever wondered why boneless grilled chicken thighs stay juicy for mid-autumn feasts, while grilled chicken breast tastes like cardboard? Kind of like my collagen-depleted skin.
Speaking of collagen, the whole dry chicken breast issue isn't really collagen's fault. Let's talk about collagen first. The cuts that are richest in collagen are things like beef tendon and beef shank. They need long, high-heat cooking. For example, it may need to go above 80 degrees Celsius before it starts to hydrolyze, and the proteins denature, so gelatin can hold on to the moisture. It still takes hours to get them tender. Collagen is one stubborn protein, after all. It can take over 3 hours of cooking. You need both conditions, above 80 degrees Celsius and a long cooking time. Only then does the meat turn tender. Before that, some cuts will taste dry and tough. In those cases, it probably is collagen's fault. But if you look at a cross-section of chicken breast, you'll see it's very different from beef shank. You won't find those traces of collagen, that clear, jelly-like part. By nature, chicken breast isn't a collagen-rich cut. And if you look at chicken itself, take chicken thighs, for example. When you pan-sear or grill them, aren't they tender? Pan-seared chicken thighs are always delicious. By that logic, chicken breast has finer fibers, so it should be even more tender. So we can't really blame this on collagen. Chicken breast is mostly white muscle. You can tell from the color that it's a fast-twitch muscle. In other words, it contracts very quickly and can put out a lot of force at once. The chest area powers the chicken's wing. This is the part chickens use when flapping their wings to fly or escape. That means it's facing a major threat. In a crisis, it makes sense to use fast-twitch muscle. Fast-twitch muscle has a trait. It contains lots of myofibrils. They have a few traits. First, they retain water well. Second, they can emulsify. When heated, they form a gel. Water retention and gelling determine whether the chicken breast stays tender or becomes dry. But before we dive any deeper, let's start by looking at the basic behavior first of the proteins. When exposed to heat, proteins undergo denaturation. Denaturation causes them to shrink. Chemical bonds break and rearrange, and as the protein structure tightens, moisture inside gets squeezed out. It's much like a towel soaked with serum. When you squeeze it, its shape changes, and all that serum gets forced out. So that towel goes from juicy to dry. Now, the next thing is that inside these myofibrils, denaturation causes them to shrink, producing different effects. When myosin denatures, its shape does change, but the effect is minor. Its main role is to release more free amino acids. Myosin denaturation makes chicken taste more savory without draining the meat's juices. Actin is a different story entirely. True to its name, when it denatures, it changes shape drastically because it causes muscle contraction. Actin denaturation makes the juices leak out. So there's a line here. We want myosin to denature, but not actin. To put it simply, it's 65 degrees Celsius. Once you go past 65 degrees Celsius, actin denaturation becomes very intense, leaving the meat dry and tough. But myosin denatures before 65 degrees Celsius. So the secret is all about controlling the heat. Stay right on that fine line, just like the 38th parallel itself. Then you can make chicken breast juicy and tender. A little basic food science is all it takes to turn a dry chicken breast tender.
Now everyone says brining works. Is it really only for adding flavor? I want your engineer's take. Tell us how brine works its magic to stop chicken breast from drying out.
What restaurants usually refer to as brining is really just a smart little kitchen trick they basically rely on all the time. Classic French cookbooks from the 19th and early 20th centuries never included brining for chicken breast at all. It really only showed up in modern 20th century cooking. Brining works a bit like electrostatics to really change the chicken's structure, allowing it to absorb and lock in far more water. Chicken breast myofibrils actually have a natural isoelectric point. The technical term doesn't matter. What matters is the principle. At a pH of roughly 5.0 to 5.4, the positive and negative charges on protein molecules balance out perfectly, really, binding themselves very tightly to one another and locking the muscle structure into a dense, compact state. Add salt to water, and it becomes sodium and chloride ions. With those positive and negative charges, the salt can shift the pH away from the isoelectric point. Then, the myofibril proteins get pulled apart a bit and carry more negative charge. That negative charge repels and stretches muscle fibers open, creating gaps that let water flow right in, boosting the meat's water-holding capacity. That's why we add salt. Brine also needs a certain concentration to really work. I'll give the answer. Culinary references often cite a 5% salt solution for optimal results. But 5%, honestly, is pretty salty. So when brining chicken breast, I really wouldn't soak it for too long. About 1 hour is more than enough. The exception is when serving it with lots of side dishes to balance out the saltiness. There's another approach, a 1% brine. As for a 1% brine, the logic is this. 1% is roughly the same as the human body's osmotic pressure. For land animals, about as osmotic as 1% saline, so it's soaking in an isotonic solution. During cooking, natural moisture exchange takes place. Internal water evaporates out. External water seeps back in. That's why a 1% brine works well for chicken breast, whether you're cooking it or using sous vide. But the science behind the two is different. So it's either 1% or 5%.
Sous vide is pretty common now. Does it have to be low and slow? From a scientific standpoint, what's the ideal sweet spot to get perfectly tender chicken breast?
This is actually a big question. As we just said, myosin and actin denature at different temperatures. To recap, when actin denatures, it changes shape dramatically and squeezes out all the juices like wringing a towel. But when myosin denatures, it boosts the meat's savory, umami flavor by releasing free amino acids along with IMP. So one option is to use different temperature-based cooking methods. Think about the white-cut chicken from local eateries or the Hainanese chicken rice you get while traveling. Their cooking style is somewhat similar to sous vide. I mean somewhat, so no nitpicking here. The idea is simple. Poach the chicken gently. Keep the water temperature at around 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. Once it reaches thermal equilibrium, actin denaturation won't be too severe, so the meat stays juicy. You'll also notice the broth it's cooked in is heavily salted at nearly a 5% salt concentration, so it can also achieve the tenderizing effect of brining. Back to sous vide, we can precisely keep the chicken breast below 65 degrees Celsius. But this is where it gets tricky. Is there truly a perfect, one-size-fits-all temperature? Truth is, every fine dining restaurant or sous vide chicken brand has its own magic formula. And for that magic formula, everyone has their own explanation. But for me, my temperature is 60 degrees Celsius. Okay, at 60 degrees Celsius, I think it's the closest to my ideal. I don't know if I should say this, but since we're here, I have to. When I make it for myself, I go with 58 degrees Celsius or 58.5 degrees Celsius. However, these temperatures don't meet TFDA's food safety standards. I just checked the official standard. Chicken breast must be held at an internal temperature of 65 degrees Celsius for 3 full minutes. Those 3 minutes are non-negotiable. And if you can go longer, I'd say that's safer. From experience, I'd say 90 minutes is the upper limit for sous vide chicken breast. Any longer and the texture turns mealy, not tender. It's soft, but mealy, losing that springy, scallop-like tenderness we're after. We always hear that sterilization requires boiling at 100 degrees Celsius. Well, there's a reason for that. At 100 degrees Celsius, it takes just a second to kill the bacteria. When it hits 100 degrees Celsius inside, basically all the bacteria died. But can low-temp pasteurization work? Yes, think low-temp pasteurized milk. It relies on 2 key factors, not just temperature alone, but also holding time. There are X and Y axes, time and temperature, those 2 variables. Home cooks can't control this, as temperature alone is insufficient. Timing matters just as much. With sous vide, it's really all about gentle, low-temperature cooking. Controlling time is critical for safe pasteurization. From what I've read in Taiwan's guidelines, they aim to minimize required holding time. If you can really stretch the time out a little, the temperature can actually be lower. But we're not doing anything illegal. We need to follow the rules. At home, I go by the Minimum Health Ministry standard.
And now, let's get your go-to chicken breast method.
I think chicken breast is pretty mild on its own, so I put more work into the sauce. First, I've got 2 routes to choose from, either brining or sous vide. And if it's sous vide, 65 degrees Celsius for 3 minutes. For brining, I use a 5% salt solution, but the best combo, to me, is this. Use a 1% salt solution and cook it sous vide. And the type of salt you use matters too. I've tried about 10 kinds of salt. No joke, 10 kinds of salt for a 1% brine. And sous vide. Fleur de sel is the best. It's one of the priciest in the world, maybe the priciest. Its minerals and flavor really are noticeably better. So make a 1% fleur de sel brine to soak the chicken breast. Then sous vide it at 65 degrees Celsius. 65 degrees Celsius for an hour. Then once it's out, just sliced up. That lasts me about 2 weeks. After that, I get sick of it. If you want it even better, whip up a simple sauce to go with it. My pick is sesame dressing, the kind you can get at Costco or PX Mart. For Japanese sesame dressing, I'd add chili oil or Sichuan pepper oil. Then I'd use lemon juice for a fresh citrus tang. Sesame dressing and chili oil both have a kind of wok hei flavor, so a little fresh fruit acidity is needed. Don't add vinegar. I'd suggest using fruit acidity. It makes it taste great. Next, texture. The breast's already tender, almost as soft as scallop. To add more bite, I'd use crushed peanuts, macadamia nuts, or honey-glazed cashews. Chop them up fine and mix them in. Doesn't this feel like mouth-watering chicken? It's basically mouth-watering chicken, just made with chicken breast. If you're bulking, cutting fat, or sticking to a strict diet plan, then go with the fleur de sel method. That's already delicious. Give it a try. Best chicken breast ever.
Now I really want to know what it tastes like.
All right, we've covered a lot about chicken breast, and you've all been forced to sit through things like myosin, actin, myofibrils, and collagen too. Didn't know so many proteins, huh? If you don't own a sous vide at home, you can still make chicken breast tasty. Besides using a 5% brine, there's another way to tenderize it. For example, we can use yogurt, pineapple enzymes, or even baking soda to alter the pH. The way baking soda shifts the pH is pretty fun too. If you want to know more about chicken breast, leave a comment below, and be sure to subscribe. I made you a chicken breast pro. Now help me grow my channel before the end of the year. Thanks.
Too smooth a segue. Awesome! Yay!